Alfred Swaine Taylor is known for his work on famous Victorian trials, but he was also really interested in public health. And one of the things that we all know about arsenic, if we know nothing else, is that the Victorians used it in wallpaper dyes. And it was Alfred Swaine Taylor that helped it become public knowledge that this wasn't a good idea. Alfred Swaine Taylor sent huge numbers of people into a flap, including the House of Lords, when he made an announcement that should have shocked no one. It was in 1858, during consultations for the Sale of Poisons Bill, that Taylor pointed out that using arsenical dyes for wallpaper was dangerous. While explaining that arsenic was used in several industries, Taylor said that the largest quantity of arsenic used in this country was in wallpaper manufacturing. He believed that it was dangerous for people living in houses that were papered with it, as well as for the workers in factories that made it. The pigment, used for a variety of colours, not only green, was almost 50% arsenic and was loosely put on. It would easily unbind itself and affect residents. This particularly alarmed the government because at the time the Inland Revenue's new offices were being decorated with arsenical wallpapers. Taylor had submitted an article by Dr. Halley of Harley Street, who had suffered from a perpetual headache, dry throat and tongue and internal irritation. After 3 weeks, he was completely prostrated and was developing paralysis. Halley performed a test using paper soaked in ammoniacal silver nitrate and believed that it proved there was arsenic in the air of his room. He took Taylor a sample of his wallpaper, and Taylor found that the pigment contained arsenic. Halley rid himself of his green wallpaper, and his health returned. Taylor and Halley were undermined at every turn. The Journal of the Society of Arts wrote in sardonic tones that, since Taylor's bombshell, we have felt very uncomfortable when sitting in any room covered with pretty green paper. They joked that the staff of the Inland Revenue were dedicated martyrs for braving their green walls. Another chemist was commissioned to perform some tests to verify Taylor's claims. Phillips papered 2 small closets with arsenical wallpaper, leaving them for 72 hours, with a gas light burning for 45 hours. He found nothing, so declared Halley's test to be bad chemistry. Phillips said that he had arsenical wallpaper himself, and his family experienced no ill effects. Meanwhile, the health of the wallpaper manufacturers went ignored. Unbowed, Taylor sent the Journal of the Society of Arts the section on arsenical wallpaper from his forthcoming edition of On Poisons, with added comments. He piled on example after example, culled from a decade's worth of scientific and medical journals, showing the perils of arsenical pigments in paints and wallpaper. A 3-year-old had displayed severe symptoms of arsenic poisoning after sucking slips of green paper. A baker's loaves, placed hot out of the oven onto freshly painted green shelves, tested positive for arsenic. There were several examples of manufacturers who worked with arsenical pigments falling ill. Taylor suggested that the mystery of the Arzone family, who had all died one after the other in a short period, was explained by arsenic poisoning, thanks to the father's job as a pigment manufacturer. There was a report of green oil paint being used in a damp room, which had led to a putrescent and highly disagreeable odour, and the occupants of the room feeling ill. The paint was removed, and the smell and the symptoms vanished. A Birmingham physician had fallen ill after redecorating his rooms. He attributed it to the arsenic in the pigment. During the summer, Taylor had wetted some arsenical wallpaper, and it had killed some flies. Taylor blamed Halley's experience, and those similar to it, on arsenical dust. Phillips said his wallpaper was glazed, and Taylor said this locked the dust in. Anyone with unglazed arsenical paper could easily knock the dust off, even in the everyday mechanical dusting of domestics. His assumption was that killer wallpapers would not hang in the poorest homes. An objection had been made to the restriction of the sale of arsenic earlier in the 1850s by a chemist who said that anyone who wanted to poison someone had only to scrape some pigment off their wallpaper. In Prussia, meanwhile, arsenical pigments had been banned outright. Taylor suggested that Britain should follow suit, and that other dyes should be used, even if it was more expensive. His tone was clear and measured until he reached the end of the article. His trademark sarcasm could not be restrained in the face of such dangerous stubbornness, so he unleashed an acerbic ending worthy of a Punch cartoon. If the manufacture of arsenical papers is to be continued, the Prussian poison symbol of a skull and crossbones with the motto Memento Mori should be printed as a pattern upon it. It is a tragedy that Taylor did not consider a career in interior design. Meanwhile, William Morris, whose famous wallpapers did not feature skulls or crossbones, used arsenical pigments into the 1880s. Still intent on proving his point, Taylor wrote to the journal again. A friend of his had suffered from severe eye inflammation after papering their library walls in arsenical wallpaper. They removed the paper and the problem fled, but the issue returned after dusting some books. Taylor carefully removed some of the dust and analysed it. Under a microscope it was green, and the Reich test proved that it contained arsenic. He then took some dust samples from the tops of the instrument cases of an optician's near London Bridge, just around the corner from Guy's Hospital. They had unglazed arsenical wallpaper, and it certainly didn't surprise Taylor to find arsenic in the dust. The years went by and more cases came to light of people suffering thanks to their wallpaper, but arsenical pigments were never banned in Britain. Finally, it was consumer pressure, encouraged by the revelations of science and medicine, that led to its use being phased out. Although Taylor had shown that there was arsenic in the dust, and that he believed this was how it poisoned people, it wasn't until the 1890s that the mechanism was finally understood. Fungus in wallpaper paste combined with arsenic in the wallpaper dye to create a poisonous vapour.